Let me ask you this, what if one tiny drop of your blood could reveal everything about your health? Instantly. That was the promise that made Theranos a $9 billion Silicon Valley darling. It was the perfect story, a young genius founder, revolutionary technology, billions in funding, glowing media, and the backing of some of the world's most powerful people. Except, it was all a lie. Theranos didn't just fail, it became the biggest scam Silicon Valley ever sold. And the craziest part, it almost worked. Today, we're breaking down exactly how this house of cards rose up, and how it spectacularly collapsed. Stick around, because this story, it's more shocking than you think. Disruption. The sexier the pitch, the better. Move fast, break things, reinvent industries. That mindset set the perfect stage for Theranos. Healthcare, it was outdated, expensive, and slow. Blood testing in particular was a nightmare. Needles, vials, long waits. So when a Stanford dropout named Elizabeth Holmes claimed she could run hundreds of tests from a single drop of blood, investors salivated. It fit the Silicon Valley playbook. Young visionary founder, bold mission, secrecy wrapped in promises of world-changing impact. No one wanted to miss the next Steve Jobs. In that culture, hype often matters more than proof. And for Theranos, that hype created a smokescreen that fooled even the smartest people in the room. The birth of Theranos, and Elizabeth Holmes dropped out of Stanford at 19, determined to revolutionize healthcare. She wasn't an engineer or a scientist, but she had a powerful vision: painless, fast, cheap blood tests that could catch diseases early and save lives. She founded Theranos in 2003 and quickly learned how to pitch. Investors were drawn in by her charisma and relentless drive. Holmes adopted the signature black turtleneck, deep voice, and enigmatic presence, deliberately modeling herself after Steve Jobs. By the late 2000s, Theranos was quietly building its prototype device, the Edison. Holmes promised it could run over 200 tests from a single drop of blood. But behind the scenes, the tech wasn't working, and instead of slowing down, the hype machine was just getting started. A single drop of blood. The promise. The Theranos sold a beautiful fantasy: one drop of blood, no big needles, no lab visits. And within minutes, you'd have a full panel of health data. It would democratize diagnostics, help catch diseases early, save lives, cut costs, transform healthcare. Partners like Walgreens jumped on board. They announced in-store testing powered by Theranos. Media ran glowing profiles. The company's valuation skyrocketed. Holmes became a tech celebrity, speaking at conferences, gracing magazine covers. Politicians praised her. Investors threw in hundreds of millions without seeing real data. They believed in the story. But behind closed doors, the Edison machine couldn't deliver accurate results. Still, Holmes kept pushing, and the dream kept selling. Media hype and the cult of personality. The media couldn't get enough of Elizabeth Holmes, a young woman disrupting healthcare, a Stanford dropout, a billionaire at 30. It was the perfect narrative. She appeared in Fortune, Forbes, Time, always photographed in that black turtleneck, eyes locked on the future. The story sold itself. And because Theranos claimed trade secrets, journalists often didn't dig deeper. They repeated the company's talking points. Holmes also cultivated a cult-like image inside Theranos. Employees viewed her as a visionary on a mission to change the world. But this personality cult masked a toxic reality, one where anyone who questioned the technology was silenced or pushed out. The media hype gave Theranos cover, and Holmes used it masterfully. The money machine. Theranos raised over $700 million, one of the largest biotech fundraisers ever. Investors included billionaires like Rupert Murdoch and the Walton family. The board was packed with political heavyweights: Henry Kissinger, George Shultz, General James Mattis. But here's the wild part: many invested without seeing audited data. They bought the story. And in Silicon Valley, FOMO, fear of missing out, is real. Once big names joined, others rushed in. Holmes promised secrecy to protect intellectual property, and investors accepted it. Theranos' valuation hit $9 billion. Holmes' stake made her a paper billionaire. But as the money poured in, the technology still didn't work. Instead of slowing down, the pressure to fake success only grew. Smoke, mirrors, and lab coats. Inside Theranos labs, things were falling apart. The Edison machine was inaccurate. Tests produced wildly unreliable results, sometimes with life or death consequences. So employees were ordered to use third-party machines, like Siemens analyzers for most tests, while still claiming the results came from Theranos tech. It was a house of cards. The work culture was toxic, hyper-secretive, paranoid with constant surveillance. Employees signed strict NDAs. Speaking out meant threats or lawsuits. Scientific staff raised concerns. Many left or were forced out. Externally, Theranos projected sleek labs, cutting-edge tech, and rapid progress. Internally, it was chaos. The deeper the company got, the harder it was to stop the scam. The whistleblowers speak. The dam finally cracked thanks to a few brave insiders. Tyler Schultz, grandson of board member George Schultz, saw firsthand how data was manipulated. He spoke up internally and was met with legal threats. So did Erika Chung, another young employee who saw dangerously inaccurate results. Both risked their careers, reputations, and finances to blow the whistle. They eventually reached out to journalist John Carreyrou at the Wall Street Journal. Without these whistleblowers, the fraud might have continued. They provided the key evidence that exposed the deception. In a company built on fear and silence, their courage changed everything. The walls were about to come crashing down. John Carreyrou's bombshell. John Carreyrou's reporting cracked the facade. In 2015, the Wall Street Journal published his bombshell story, Theranos machines didn't work. Most tests were run on conventional machines. The accuracy was dangerously poor. The piece sent shockwaves through Silicon Valley and the healthcare world. Theranos denied everything, and Holmes launched a PR counterattack. Legal threats flew. But Carreyrou had the receipts, insider accounts, documents, patient complaints. Regulators took notice. Government investigations began. The media tide turned. Where once Holmes was celebrated, now the headlines questioned her credibility. Carreyrou's journalism proved that investigative reporting still matters, especially in an industry drunk on hype. Theranos' downfall had begun. The empire crumbles. Once the truth was out, the collapse was swift. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, investigated and banned Holmes from running a lab. Walgreens severed ties. Investors sued. Board members distanced themselves. Holmes tried to save face, demoing new Minilabs, but it was too late. Employees fled. The media reversed course. Patients came forward with stories of incorrect diagnosis. By 2018, Theranos was bleeding cash. Holmes laid off most of the staff. In September 2018, the company officially shut down. The $900 billion valuation gone. The biggest scam in Silicon Valley history had finally imploded. The trial of Elizabeth Holmes. Holmes wasn't done yet. In 2021, she stood trial for wire fraud and conspiracy. The prosecution argued she knowingly misled investors and patients, hyping tech she knew didn't work. Holmes' defense: that she truly believed in the mission and blamed her COO and former partner, Sunny Balwani, for the deception. The trial was gripping. Whistleblowers testified. Investors spoke about being misled. Emails, texts, and internal reports painted a damning picture. In 2022, Holmes was found guilty on 4 counts of fraud. Once the youngest self-made female billionaire, she now faces years in prison. Her story became a cautionary tale, not of innovation, but of ambition without accountability. Why Silicon Valley fell for it. So why did so many smart people fall for Theranos? Because they wanted to believe. Silicon Valley thrives on bold visionaries. Investors chase hype, fearing they'll miss the next unicorn. Theranos checked every box: disrupt healthcare, young female founder, world-changing potential. Holmes sold the dream perfectly. And because the industry values speed and secrecy, few demanded proof. In healthcare, where lives are at stake, that's a recipe for disaster. The Theranos saga exposed how tech's fake it till you make it mentality can go dangerously wrong when applied to medicine. And it showed just how easily hype can blind even the smartest minds. Lessons learned or not? Theranos left deep scars. But did Silicon Valley learn the right lessons? On the surface, yes, due diligence tightened. Investors started asking harder questions. Startups became warier of overselling. But hype-driven investing still thrives. Moonshot pitches still attract billions. Theranos proved that fake it till you make it can hurt real people when it crosses into fraud, especially in health and biotech. The scandal also highlighted the power of brave whistleblowers and investigative journalism. Without them, this scam might have gone much further. Theranos should remind us innovation is great, but in industries that affect lives, honesty, transparency, and accountability must come first, always. And that's the story of Theranos, how the biggest scam in Silicon Valley history fooled the world. A seductive vision, a media darling, and beneath it all, a dangerous lie. What do you think was the biggest red flag people ignored? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear them. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button, share it around, and don't forget to subscribe. There are plenty more wild stories from the world of tech coming your way. Thanks for watching, and stay curious.